Helen from Cheeky Wipes. I'm going to bring in Richard first from eComOne. Richard, how's it going?
I'm going really well. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for joining me. I know that we've got a lot to cover here, so I'm going to bring Helen in. I'll let you introduce yourself and her, and I'm just going to step out to the side and let you guys get going.
No
Thanks
problem.
very much. Hi, Helen. How are we doing?
I'm really good, Richard. How are you?
I am very well. Thank you, Derek and team. Excellent show so far, but I really enjoyed that last session. So yeah, thanks for having us on. So I'm Richard, CEO and founder of eComOne. I've been in the e-commerce space for, I don't want to say, but 22 years-ish, which is quite some time. 10 years being a merchant myself, selling products, and then sort of 12 years-ish. I think November the 2nd is our anniversary at our agency. So we're coming up to 12 years fast. I'm running an e-com only marketing agency where we specialize in sort of 4 core areas: Google Shopping, search ads, and Facebook ads. And then we also run a eCommerce only podcast. So eComOne, every Monday we launch a new episode. So feel free to have a look at that. And with me today, I've got Helen, who's a long-standing client and friend of the agency. Do you want to jump in, Helen, and tell the guys all about yourself?
Sure. I'm Helen. I am the owner and founder of Cheeky Wipes, which is a reusable baby wipes kit. That was our first and core product. We launched almost 13 years ago. So we're going to be celebrating an anniversary probably quite soon, similar sort of time, Richard. We're going to be 13 at the end of October. And back when I launched Cheeky Wipes, the concept of reusing wipes was a very outlandish one. People looked at me as if I had lost my senses. But, 13 years on, we're going strong. And, the world is slowly getting the plastic pollution concept.
Certainly is, isn't it? So 13 years ago, you obviously had a spark of an idea. How did it all begin? What was the starting point?
Yeah, so, they say necessity is the mother of invention, and that has certainly been the case for me. I have had eczema since I was a child, never quite grew out of it like doctors said that I would. And when I had my eldest son, which is 17 years ago, I had really bad eczema on my hands. My hands were cracked and chapped and bleeding. And I couldn't use any disposable baby wipes. And I was using cloth nappies on him anyway. So I decided to use cloth wipes, give them a go. I cut up an old towel to start with. And within about 3 weeks, it looked like something you would wash the car with. So I set out on a mission to make using washable wipes as easy as disposables. So, little boxes and essential oils to store them in, travel bags when you were out and about. And that led me to, 3 or 4 years later, set up Cheeky Wipes, because I realized that lots of my friends wouldn't use cloth nappies, but they might be up for cloth wipes. So, yeah, I launched it would have been October 2008. I was 37 weeks pregnant with baby number 3. Babies take 9 months to grow, so do businesses. So, yeah, the two things sort of arrived at the same time. So, so we launched in the October, and we've gone from strength to strength.
Yeah, so sort of necessity, needing to the product, sort of figuring out something for your own children, and then here we are 13 years later. So obviously getting that idea for your own use, but then actually launching it as a business is a whole different world, isn't it? So maybe step through those first early stages of sort of the manufacturing side, selling that first product, that first order coming in. Step us through some of those pieces.
Sure. So I was quite lucky because I had been running my own business, which was a Polaroid guest book business, cracking little business. It had slots in every page to hold a Polaroid photo, and the idea was you would use them at weddings. It was great. And then Polaroid stopped production of their iconic film and cameras. So over the course of a couple of years, I was aware that this business was going to wind up, and I was looking for that other idea, and then thought, yeah, I can launch Cheeky Wipes. So I had a little bit of capital in the bank anyway, so that element was okay. I also then had experience of having a website. So I'd gone through the sort of setup of a website. At that stage, I didn't employ an agency. I did all the SEO by myself. and sort of got all that ready and ready for launch. I struggled. My biggest challenge has always been, in the first years anyway, manufacturing. I'm not, that is not my background. I come from a marketing and finance background. Manufacturing is a completely alien world to me. So because my kit has got lots of elements, I was way out of my depth. So I found a sourcing partner who was based in Nottingham, who went and helped me source the elements for my kit. And that process, setting up the website, sourcing the actual bits that made the product took me 9 months. As I said, I launched when I was 37 weeks pregnant, and that was at a trade show. I'm still in touch with one of my very first retailers. It's a friend of both yours and mine, Richard, Vicky, who was one of my very first retailers. And from there, it was really just plugging away. This was a completely new concept. People really did just think, are you nuts? Reusable wipes? Why would you want to reuse something that you can just throw down the toilet? And it may not be the same in the US, but in the UK, there has been a huge problem with people throwing wipes down the toilet. They block the sewers, they cause fatbergs, stinking, monstrosities. But there wasn't really that awareness at that point of the plastic pollution. And people really did look at me. But the one thing we've got going for our product is not just the biggest thing is it works, and people will tell their friends about it. So that word of life for us has always been really, really important.
Yeah, I think it really resonates that when you're thinking, you get your business off the ground and you think, right, okay, well, we've got to source these products, and that moment when you're like, right, okay, we're ordering a container, or maybe not a container to start, but that first order that comes through. And there's so many different things, isn't there, you've got to think about. But obviously, when you do it for the first time, you probably don't realize what it entails. So you sort of learn by doing it, in effect, right in the early days.
Absolutely. And I'm still learning, and that is what I love about running my own business, to be fair, and when I say learning, I mean stuffing things up. Everybody, you learn from your mistakes. And I think the thing you need to do always is be able to take that step back, be objective, take the you can take things really personally when it's your own business, and it's being able to step back, get a little bit of objectivity, and think, right, I need to solve this. What can I do? But yeah, we've had plenty of those along the way.
Didn't you were saying when we spoke, didn't you have 100,000 units come through that needed a little bit of adjustment?
So Claire, who is my amazing, she's now my amazing sort of warehouse manager and product development. At the very start, I had 100,000 wipes come in, and every single one of them needed to be overlocked again. So the samples that we got didn't match up to the quality of what we received. So she got her washing machine, her sewing machine out, and she overlocked every single one of them because it was the cheapest way for us to solve that problem. Thankfully, 8 years later, she's still with me, and she's off setting up an exhibition tonight. So she has forgiven me for it.
I think it really resonates, because I can remember probably not the first time I did it imported, but probably, I don't know, 10th time, thinking I knew it all, sort of thing. And we were selling computers. This is probably 15 years ago, and we ordered some mice. And back in the day, mice had balls in them as opposed to optical and wireless now. Well, when they arrived, the balls came separately. So we had 20,000 mice. We had to unpack and put the mice ball.
Oh no. The thing is, we've all done it, and you really learn from your mistakes. And
a couple of long weekends later, we had some nice. I remember very well. So obviously, sort of crack that first import, and obviously big commitment to stock, but maybe step back a little bit before that, and around that time, obviously you've scaled massively now. You're doing obviously multi-millions a year. But how did you get in the early days people to buy? Some of those early days.
Like I said, I there was a little bit of guerrilla marketing went on at the start. It's fair to say. My previous business had been like related to weddings,
Yeah.
and as a result, I'd been on lots of forums where 2 or 3 years earlier, people had been getting married, and you get to know people on forums. So when I, then launched something related to babies, all those people that have been getting married were all suddenly having babies. So when anything came up about wipes or anything like that, I was dropped in cheeky wipes, reusable wipes. You should look at them. You have to be very careful what you do on those sorts of forums, because if you get caught, it's not. But it really worked. And like I said, then we went to exhibitions. It's still a big thing for us. The girls are at Sandown Racecourse at the minute, setting up for an exhibition on tomorrow. And that is just, it's getting in front of your customers. Having an online business is great. We do get amazing feedback via our Trustpilot reviews, but actually talking to people, letting them see the product, getting, their feedback, one-on-one is amazing. So yeah, that really works.
Yeah, I think it's something that is definitely overlooked. I mean, definitely probably this last 18 months with the pandemic and whatnot, but I think it's definitely something that a lot of, I think, retailers do miss potentially, the sort of face-to-face element, and getting whether it's getting samples out there or just, a new product that you're looking at or launch potentially, or getting ideas and getting feedback live from nothing like looking at a customer in the eyes and getting that feedback, that initial reaction to opening the box and the experience and testing, maybe not testing the wipes or everything. But, so obviously wipes was where you started.
Sure.
But obviously now, we're sort of 13 years down the line, and it's obviously a lot more than wipes. You've got a whole range of different feminine products. But talk us through the sort of, that part where you're taking one product and then sort of developing a new product and deciding, and committing to what will be and what is, big investment in new product lines. Talk us through that. I think a lot of people listening will be in a similar boat where they'll be doing a certain product range, but obviously there's other options and which direction to take.
Yeah. It's funny because we, after spending a fair bit of time last year, about 18 months ago, a fair bit of time and a fair bit of money, we've been able to sort of summarize what Cheeky is all about as simple reusables. Now, 7 years ago, I couldn't have summarized it quite so succinctly for you, but that was really what was underlying all on our product development decisions. It had to be reusable and we had to make it simple. So again, necessity is the mother of invention. Having had 4 kids, my periods were no longer the same. My body had changed. Internal period protection was not for me. And we went looking for a reusable alternative. So cloth sanitary pads were the first item that we went for. And then that's been joined by, that was about 7 or 8 years ago. And now we have period pants. We've been doing them for about 3 or 4 years as well. Really, really popular. Again, everybody's just so much more aware of as a consumer, their choices and the impact that has. So it just has, we've sort of been a little bit ahead of the curve and people are beginning to catch up with us. But as a woman, the sanitary pads and period pants are just, they're more comfortable, they're absorbent. It's a bit of a no-brainer, really.
Yeah. So very much sort of your own feedback, in effect, and client feedback, and your own, experiences. Yeah. I think that'll definitely resonate with the listeners. So sorry, go on.
And all my friends will test the products for me. So as you're in that product development stage, he's like, "Here, do you fancy these knickers? Try them on," which can be, hilarious in the office over a pair of jeans. The amusement we have with that is nothing ordinary. But it's really good, and they give you feedback as to whether the cut's right, and it works.
Yeah. So I can imagine, obviously, taking the initial business from one product or a small handful of products to now over the years building an entire range and different ranges has really had an impact on average order value and sort of sales and bundles and things like that. Do you want to step through how important that's been and some of the insights you've got from that?
Yeah, I mean, our average order value stays fairly static, actually. It will vary depending on whether delivery is a is something that makes our average order size vary. We have a free delivery over £50. We don't, lots of our competitors have free delivery on anything, but they build it into the price. So we prefer to be transparent and say, well, you know, our products are cheaper than theirs because we don't, but you'll pay your delivery separate. And I think that's reasonable. We also see our when we run a sale, our average order value drops, but generally it stays pretty static. What we have seen is our turnovers increased as we have developed and marketed those new product ranges. So, you know, adding in the cloth sandry pads, we had an audience of warm leads who were already committed to reusables in some way. So moving from reusable wipes, which may have seemed initially a bit of a, really, you know, you want me to reuse a baby wipe, to, again, a similar sort of conversation about cloth sandry pads or period pads. Like, really, you want me to use? But they've got trust in the brand because they've tried the wipes and they work. So they're willing to take that, put themselves out of their comfort zone, maybe slightly, break a habit, because like deodorant or you know, things that you tend to use all the time, you'll stick with the same brand unless something, you know, really shakes you up. So getting people to change that habit by, you know, taking that warm market and sort of then introducing those products to them worked really well. And that's seen our average, our turnover really increase.
Yeah. I think that's just such a great message, because I think a lot of people, this is where, you know, it's obviously a tricky piece, but ultimately, if you've got a small product range, you know, once somebody's bought from you once, you know, obviously they'll potentially rebuy, but obviously as their the demands or their lifestyle changes and they're growing through, you know, if it's children's products and their children are growing, etc. And, you know, but obviously to introduce brand new product lines, you know, just create, you know, you've got that customer and they're coming back through their, you know, the life cycle of their life and their children or whatever it may be. So yeah, I think that's a great message there. So obviously I know your business very well, and I think obviously 13 years, you know, we touched on it already, but obviously made quite a lot of mistakes, you know, or I shouldn't say, you know, that's the nature of the game, isn't it? And I think if you're not making mistakes, then you're not pushing hard enough.
Exactly.
However you want to skin it, sort of thing. Yeah. You know, I think you know, we could, between us, I think we could write several books on that, on that one. But ultimately, maybe tell us about the biggest mistake, stroke fire that you've had to put out in the business over the years.
Yeah, we had, we redesigned, this is not our existing, so the wipes come in storage boxes. And I think this was two production runs ago, which must be about 9 or 10 years ago. We thought it would be a really good idea to have a pop top lid, and it was a great idea. But the mechanism, the little thing that made it pop, was susceptible to rust, and they went rusty, and then they wouldn't pop. So it was just that, what on earth, what can I do? So we basically we were able to replace them. So if customers complained, we would send them out the little little insert that you could take the other one out, put a new one in. If that didn't work for them, we would replace the box. We always try and leave our customers happy, you know, and I think generally people understand that sometimes stuff does go wrong, but if you can turn that around and fix it for them, you will, you know, turn them potentially from somebody who, you know, is a really, really unhappy into an advocate for you. And we see that a lot, you know, and it's really, really good. That's why I've got a fantastic customer services team. And our customer services reviews will back me up on that.
Yeah, you are renowned. I mean, I would suggest anybody goes and has a look at Helen's reviews just to get a feel for, you know, what they're doing to respond to feedback, and obviously thousands of 5-star reviews, etc. But obviously, I know you've got a whole team there that are sort of backing up the brand and getting the feedback in, and then obviously you're iterating on products and making decisions and really.
I think what the last guest actually said is really important. You know, he said leave some 3-star reviews in there. We leave all our reviews in there, but we personally respond to all the sort of more negative ones. I mean, sometimes its post hasn't turned up, which completely outside our our remit. Sometimes it's that somebody's tried maybe period pants, but they haven't got quite the right fit for them. So we'll go back to them and say, okay, that didn't work, but we can send you some that might work. And quite often then that completely turns it around and the customer will update the review. And, that's really great.
Yeah. No, 100%. Okay. So we can't really be at this event and at Derek's event without talking about Black Friday. Obviously, you've done quite a few, to say the least. Probably all of them, literally. So, what are you doing this year to prepare for Black Friday? And sort of going back over the years, what's worked well for you in the past?
Well, we actually take a slightly different slant. So as I said earlier, our birthday is towards the end of October. So rather than wait until Black Friday, our product is not something that people would be buying for Christmas. It's not like, like electronics or, gifting really. It's not sort of drawn into that seasonality. So we front load, we pull our anniversary sale event forward to the end of October, get ahead of the crowds, and we do our sort of big event then in October, and that works really well for our product category. Might not work for everyone, but it works really, really well for us.
Yeah. So very different to probably a lot of people listening, but I think you can obviously, if you've got a birthday and anniversary coming up, that's always a good one, isn't it? It's similar to you can use it, but just like a Black Friday potentially. But yeah, fantastic. So me and Helen know each other very well through our relationship, through a very close friend, and we work together, or our teams work together, very much on the SEO side of your business. So obviously, 15 years down the line, you've been doing a lot of SEO, and a lot of content strategy and creating yourself. But obviously, at a point in time, a few years ago, you took the plunge and took your first jump into agency world. Maybe step through when did you know it was right to move from doing things yourself to then jumping in and working with an agency?
So about 2 years ago, I started working with a mentor, and my mentor, I wanted to move. I was aware that I was doing quite a lot with Cheeky Whites, but there was more that I could do. And I started working with a mentor who he said, basically, what you're trying to do is move from a lifestyle business, which is giving you a good income, to being scalable, which is something that you could then sell at some point and grow. And what you need to do for that is stop doing everything yourself. So that was a really difficult for me, because it's my baby. It's been my baby for 13 years, and nobody can do it as well as I do it, in my head anyway. But he was absolutely right. So I've spent the past 2 years handing things over to people who actually know what they're doing, and it's their job to know what they're doing, like yourself and your team, who do a fantastic job of all our SEO for us. And we've got a different agency that does our digital marketing. We've got specialists now. We've got to that point where you need to bring in people who actually that is their area of expertise, and pay them to do it. But hard to literally unroll my fingers from it all.
It is that piece, isn't it? I think we're all so guilty. I sit here in my agency and think, oh no, I need to do this bit. Even now, sort of 12 years down the line sort of thing, but hanging on to things, but really you're just slowing progress down, where you've got to be great at, that piece. Obviously you need to have a cracking understanding of it, ideally, and obviously spend the time, spend the time finding out about agencies, spend the time finding about the people, the projects they've worked on, really putting them through the mill in that front end would be my suggestion, to make sure you're picking the right agency. Yeah. I think SEO is particularly a hard one, because I think, it's a bit tainted out there in terms of as an industry. So what would you say in terms of sort of short-term, mid-term, long-term sort of expectations of SEO? Obviously, you've been working with our agency for a couple of years now. Well, not quite, actually, about 18 months.
Yeah.
But I think obviously it's there's different things that can happen through a through a campaign. Sorry.
Yeah, I think the thing with SEO is you're in it for the long game, isn't it? I mean, there's certain things that sort of don't change, but it's a long-term thing. It's not going to be a sort of short-term fix. And we've invested in it over the years, and it is worth investing in because it gets people to your website, it gets you up, the rankings. And it is worth spending the money on. It's getting people, it's getting those long tail keywords, to get people get the right people to the right page on your website where they are like, yeah, that is exactly relevant to me. I'm going to buy, and that's what SEO is really all about for me.
I think obviously knowing your project as I do, I think what can get missed quite often, a store starts off on a platform. And it's almost a hobby to start with, or an idea. And then fast forward, whether it's 3 years, 10 years, or 13 years, when you're doing 5, 10, 20 million or whatever it may be, and obviously it's a super, super huge channel for any retailer. If you're doing £5 million through SEO and you're not working or with an agency, or don't have an agency to call on, say when you're replatforming, for example, also, as all sorts of things. You could probably no doubt write a book on the different things over the years that have happened and, can happen. I think it's something that we see more and more. Obviously, ecom last 18 months in particular, business have doubled, tripled, whatever it may be. And what was working in terms of platforming or platform tech stack, it's getting changed. And the amount of times we see, huge technical inconsistencies from one platform to another, if they're not taken care of and not looked at, taken into account on that replatform, you replatform and then potentially lose, tens of thousands of dollars, pounds, millions potentially every year. So I think obviously that's something I think a lot of people should take into account when they're looking for a partner. So anything else you'd say on sort of choosing an SEO agency? What would you say if somebody listening in is looking to work with an agency? What sort of advice would you give them particularly?
I think the top thing, as with anything, it's almost like that get 3 quotes, which have drilled into me over the last few years in different circumstances. Actually, builders always get 3 quotes, but again, it is that get a recommendation. I was lucky, a mutual friend introduced us, she recommended you, she spoke highly of you, I was prepared, we met, it's all worked out brilliantly. But having that recommendation just means, so much. I've got another colleague who runs a sort of similar business, and she's just been charged a few thousand for a website design that was dreadful. And she's like, "Oh, I'm so stupid." I'm like, "No, you're not stupid, but you should have asked us first, me." Vicky, ask friends, get recommendations, ask, you will make colleagues in the industry, ask around, or if all else fails, ask whoever your supplier or agency is, if they've got people that you can talk to, because it's absolutely needs to be done.
That's fantastic advice. It's the advice that we give even when people come to us. We say, and sort of speak to our clients, or go and speak to people that we've worked with for a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. Go and speak to them. I think it can be quite easy to any relationship can be quite shiny for a month or 3, can't it? But when you've been working for somebody for a year, 2 years, 3 years, go and find the people that have been working with the agencies you're looking at. And have a good chat, or go to those events where they hang out. But yeah, great, Helen. It's been an absolute blast.
Excellent. Yeah, I've really enjoyed it too.
We'll hand over to we'll bring Derek back in.
Hello. That was amazing. Yeah, so awesome. Thank you both for sharing your story, Helen, and Richard for guiding her through it. And yes, I did catch that. What specifically do you look for in an SEO agency? Hint, say hire us. That is totally fine. But and I'll give the plug as well. If you are looking for an agency across ads, search, you're going to want to talk to Richard. He's been in the game as long as you possibly can, really, in e-commerce.
Thanks, Derek.
And that is important because that means you've seen every algorithm change and update, and thing that can go wrong has gone wrong, which I absolutely well, I was only ran my agency for 4 years, and yeah, you get hit with those hurdles. And Helen, what you said on getting 3 kind of proposals from brands, I try to do the same thing with technology products. So people often go, "Oh, should I use this one?" And it's like, well, it's not should you use this or should you not use that. It's what are the players in that category space? How do they integrate with me? How do they serve their their market share? Some of them are going to be really pricey and for like bigger brands. Some of them might be just like one function or feature of the whole thing, and maybe that's all I need right now. So like, yeah, you've really got to always expand your options. Everybody has a terrible agency story where there's a breakup. Every merchant gives me one. I've talked to 280 merchants. I've never had somebody not give me a terrible agency story. But simultaneously, Richard, I'm sure you have a terrible client story as well. Didn't pay, totally like, fell back on everything they promised they'd do for us, didn't respond to us, blamed us for their delays. Yeah. Sorry. Long story short, it's a relationship that everyone has to work on together between agency and client in order for both sides to succeed. And that's why a recommendation from a friend can go a long ways. So yeah. All right, that was my side rant on that, just saying like what you guys said, but in slower and longer words. But thank you both so much for joining us. We're going to move right into our next session.